People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
I want to talk a little bit about your character development in this last episode, especially where things left off for you. Yeah. What were you really excited to figure out with JJ in terms of where you needed to go?
I really didn't have any expectation because I felt doing The Last Jedi that a lot of things were satisfied. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, I guess they aren't really that satisfied, because really all Rey was yearning for was a parent figure. And Luke said no, which I always found very sad. And so beyond that, I was like, oh, I guess, yeah, there are still a lot of questions, because she's putting someone in loco parentis, but also the questions are still there and the struggle is still there. So I went in without really any expectations. And then when JJ told me what I was going to be able to do, or what he was requiring me to do, it was really exciting.
Now, we are constantly seeing more aspects of your acting talent as we go on in this trilogy. What new things were you really excited to kind of dig into on screen?
Something that I hadn't really done, which is scary, is anger. Being angry is really hard. Laura Dern in Big Little Lies 2 is so amazing. It's really hard to make it read. So I found that very difficult, because physically tensing, and JJ's like, be more, and you're like, I'm so angry, I can't be more angry. So that was a bit of a new facet, that sort of heavy intensity. But also there's a lot more joy in comparison to the last one, which was amazing and great because I'm with John and Oscar and everyone.
In terms of where you end up as a character, how satisfied are you?
Very satisfied. I mean, I get a great story in this. I think everyone does, but I really do get a great story.
Now, I've been asking the cast to pick their favorite own Star Wars moments from their careers, and I want you to think about episode 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And I want you to pick a scene that you're particularly proud of.
One that's coming to mind is the scene with Mars in episode 7, because I remember thinking it really, I always thought, was like the crux of Rey, that she's so scared, but she's really trying to do the right thing, and she's drawn to this thing, but she's also terrified by it. And here she has someone who's going to help her and be kind to her, and she runs away because she's terrified and ends up in the arms of a bad guy, literally. But I always found the writing of it, that all of it so emotional. I remember enjoying doing the scene because it just felt so human and, yeah.
Last quick fun question. Years from now, what's the best life lesson Star Wars fans will have learned from Rey?
To try and continue to see the good in people, even if they're horse.
I want to talk a little bit about your character arc, and especially where we ended up in episode 8. What were you excited to figure out with JJ in terms of your character arc in this chapter?
Can this guy be more brave, please? Could he make a choice and it work?
He was brave before.
No, I mean brave like everyone, like Rey brave, like kind of, like, can we get him up to them levels? And JJ had the same passion. Like, I'd say to him, be like, look, like, dude, I've been thinking the exact same thing. So that was nice to have that discussion and him be on the same page, because it manifested in the script and certain scenes that Finn was involved in. So it's been nice being able to have a much more stronger Finn. But I appreciate the journey. No one is strong overnight, man, and I appreciate that. It gave me something to do, somewhere to go.
From an acting point of view, was there any particular challenge in this chapter that you were excited to dig into? You're like, I'm ready to tackle that, JJ.
Yeah, horse riding, yeah. But for the big horse riding sequence that we have in the movie, well, they're not horses, they're Orbaks, just space horses. Yeah, doing that was challenging because I'd never done that in my life before.
How'd it go?
Oh, you see the film, I'm like a prince.
So, at the end of the day, how satisfied were you with where your character ended up?
I'm still trying to process that, I am. I was actually just with Oscar over lunch break. We were like, oh yeah, what? And then there was a scene, but trying to trace how the movie goes. I think for actors, when we watch, well, anyway, for me anyway, when I watch a project for the first time, it's a lot to take in. so much imagery, the story, and I'm thinking about so much, you know, spending time with these amazing people, and I'm not gonna be able to have that time consistently like that again. You know, so many different thoughts, so it takes a while to process. But the movie as a whole, very, very exciting, very, very cool. It's just as an actor, I got to get over my stuff. You know what I mean?
I've been asking the cast to pick their own personal favorite Star Wars moments, the scenes that they were in. So thinking through episodes 7 and 8, what scene are you particularly proud of?
I'm proud of the scene where Finn and Rey first meet each other, because that was a struggle to get that scene. It was a struggle. We were sandstorms for the first time we did it, and then we tried it again and it just wasn't working. Like, I just guess that chemistry that they were trying to bring out in that scene, it just wasn't hitting. But then when we did get it right, that's what kind of made me feel like, okay, cool, we're in a Star Wars game now. Now we can this is the foundation, and we can continue to do some cool work.
I got to tell you, JJ picked that as one of the scenes that he felt was one of his strongest.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you?
No. It took a while to get to that point. That's why it was just such a celebration, because once that scene was nailed, it was like, oh, okay, well, for me anyway, I was like, yeah, cool. I can deal with the whole film.
One last quick question for you. Years from now, what is the best life lesson your character will have taught Star Wars fans?
Oh, the character. Be loyal. Be loyal. Be loyal. Be as loyal to people as you want them to be to you.
And be brave.
And be brave. I mean, to a certain extent.
In thinking through where 8 ended, as a director, what were you most excited to figure out with your cast in this final chapter?
Well, the fun of this movie, maybe primarily for me, you know, stepping into it, was we get to see the group together for the first time, out on a crazy breakneck adventure, and getting them together exceeded all my expectations, because the dynamic between no matter what direction you're looking in, you know, and throwing in not just, you know, Rey, Finn, and Poe, but also Chewie and 3PO and BB-8 and these new characters they meet along the way. It was really fun getting to have all of them interact and let their dynamic sort of, you know, not take over, but like flourish. And it was really wonderful to get to be on the set with them and be in the editing room watching what they do.
Now, a lot of emotional storylines that you kind of had to tie up, hopefully in a really smooth way. As a director, what creative challenge did you find most fun trying to figure out among the many things that you had to handle along the way?
Well, there's so many things that were important to us when we started working on the movie, and that we really wanted to say and see and experience. You know, one of the more obvious challenges was Leia, you know, getting to, you know, use the footage that we'd shot and unused from episode 7 with Keri, and to create scenes that were written around and then actually lit around and composed around her, so that she could be in this movie in a way where we weren't replacing her or recasting her and using digital, you know, characters or anything. That was kind of, you know, an amazing thing. But on a movie like this, it's a circus, and you're like shooting on any given day, and there are, you know, 100+ people in crazy costumes, robots, you know, that are being operated by puppeteers off camera, a puppet that has 6 puppeteers right behind him, you know, people who may or may not be living anymore. You know, you have actors who are wearing the kind of, you know, costumes where they can't see where they're walking. I mean, literally, and it's all happening in one shot, and it's just the number of moving pieces that have to be juggled and arranged and worked out is just a testament to the literally thousands of people who worked on this film.
Totally. One quick last question.
All of which are on IMDb.
Exactly. One last quick question. I've been asking your cast what their own favorite Star Wars moments are. I want you to think about The Force Awakens and pick a scene or moment there that you're really proud of as a filmmaker.
There are so many that I feel, you know, proud of the work that was done on the set by the actors. You know, one of the things that comes to mind is you know, the first time that Rey and Finn meet. Another thing that comes to mind is when Finn and Poe escape. You know, I getting to work with Max von Sydow comes to mind just as like I can't believe that got to happen. Shooting that moment when Han comes into the Falcon and says, Chewie, we're home. I mean, there were moments that I just couldn't, I can't tell you how amazing it was to be there and watch these people do what they do and take an idea that you hope will have a certain feeling and then be elevated because the people are so good. But I will say that in this movie, as much as I knew that Rey goes through so much, the work that Daisy does in this movie, she is so extraordinarily good that I hope people appreciate what she does and makes look effortless, because it takes a lot of work and she's extraordinary.
How's it feel to be part of a Star Wars movie?
Pretty boring.
How fast did it take you to say yes?
He emailed me and said, hey, do you want to be in Star Wars? I said, yes. Like, I was like, how quickly can I call you?
Nothing about the character, no questions about what the character arc would be?
I would have played a rock.
Really?
Like, it's in Star Wars, I would have done anything.
So, a lot of speculation out there about your character. What's the craziest rumor you've heard or have been amused to hear about your character?
Well, so I live in New York, I live in Brooklyn, and my trash guys, I see them every morning, or like 3 times a week, and they were the ones, they were like, are you Rey's mother? Are you Rey? Are you blah, blah? And I was like, no, even if I was, I wouldn't tell you. They'll poison dart me in the neck and I'll be dead in like 2 seconds. But people were, I know, it's kind of crazy.
It is a little crazy.
But that's what's so fun about to be that JJ asked me to be a part of it, but then to get to be one of the cool characters with a mask, it was a win-win.
Talk to me about this cool aspect of your character. So you do get a mask. People love masks these days.
All days.
Exactly. What were you excited to figure out with JJ about this character?
Well, JJ kind of pitched it to me early on, and he had this character growing up that he sort of was fascinated with. This girl character who rode this motorcycle who was covered, and he always loved that. He always wanted her to take the thing off so he could see her face. And I love that idea. There's such intrigue to that. But then he had this whole idea to help tell a story about Poe, and just like I was sold. I was like, yes, please, sign me up. When can I start? And I personally loved wearing the mask because it's such a power play that you walk in this tough thing, you can see everyone, but no one can truly see who you are or what you're thinking, or you could be lying, and so it was a great character to get to do.
Now, having seen the movie last night for the first time, how satisfied were you with how your character ends up on screen?
Very. You thought I was going to fall for that, didn't you?
It wasn't a trick question.
You thought I was going to fall for something.
It wasn't a trick question.
I did not. But no, super satisfied.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Now, I've been asking the cast to pick their favorite moments from their own Star Wars movies. Since this is your first, maybe not last, can you share your favorite Star Wars moment from this recent trilogy?
Ooh, okay. You know what? And I'm not giving anything away, because we all know that they've shown scenes that we shoot in the desert. But there are a few such like iconic Star Wars moments, obviously in this one. I'm not giving anything away, that there's action in this. But there's this moment that Daisy does in the desert, like it's one of many gazillion things that she does, where she like gets down and does something in the desert and it starts. And as it started, I was just like, yeah, this is so, like it was just, I was so into it. I was just like willing her on. It was just so cool. And she does such a fabulous job. And it's not easy to do what she's doing. And she just killed it.
I want to talk about your two characters and how they evolve in this final chapter, especially from where we left off in episode 8. What were you excited to figure out with JJ in terms of your character development here in this last movie?
Let me answer first. In JJ, I trust. There was no issues. I knew he rocks as a director. So,
as you will know, I've written a book, I Am C-3PO: The Inside Story, in which I put in the email I sent to him, directing him exactly what he should do for 3PO in this final go-around. And thank you, JJ, you did it.
In terms of like the creative problems that you were looking to solve in terms of your characters, what was the most fun challenge there?
I think creative problems are JJ's department, and he always very generous in talking about things and making sure. I think he and Chris Terrio made our characters fit where they should have fitted, and so we said the words, or in your case, Joonas, you said the sounds.
Exactly, and I think Chewbacca is because Chewbacca can't speak. He sort of he occupies a special place, which is more like a presence and energy, rather than something that gives you words and advances the plot. Chewbacca is such a special character, a very specific character. So I'm always eager to respond to the challenges of the script and bring what I have.
Having seen the movie last night, were you satisfied with how things ended up?
Yes.
Yes.
So I've been asking the cast here to pick their favorite Star Wars moments that they were actually in. So I want you to think about the movies that you were in, all of them, and then the last couple for you. Oh, okay. And pick the scene that you're most proud of.
It's in this film, but I can't say what scene.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps later.
Can you say why you're proud of it?
I think it's just. I mean, it just fits in the intent of the scene, and that's always what I want to fit into that, and I think I did it, and I think the character. I mean, I believe the character is there, and that's nothing more I can say that would make me more proud, you know.
The particular scene I'm thinking of is in Return of the Jedi, where Han Solo is being endlessly annoying to 3PO, and you can watch it, but he keeps interrupting, and I did have to work out how to do it, but at some point I just turned back to Solo and 3PO gives him such a go away look, and of course the mask doesn't change, but it was an example of where I did get the physical acting right, and do watch it and you'll see what I mean. I think even Harrison was slightly surprised at the venom in 3PO's face. But you know, he'd been pushing 3PO around for months, so hey. Yeah. But in this film there's so many little moments, and I admitted earlier that last night I did make myself laugh. It was a sweet moment.
One last quick fun question. Years from now, what's the life lesson Star Wars fans are going to learn from your two characters?
From Chewbacca is probably never give up on your friends.
And I would say loyalty, which is pretty much the same thing.
I want to talk a little bit about your characters, especially in this final chapter, especially where things left off in the storyline. What were you most excited to dig into with JJ in terms of your character development here?
Yeah, well, it's been a year since the last one in terms of the storyline of characters. And I think I was most excited just to see where Rose was going to go. And it's been really, really cool now that we have seen the film last night. To see what he did with every character in this franchise and to see where all their stories have sort of wrapped up. Yeah,
absolutely.
And for you, what were you excited to figure out about your character?
I guess the real big question, you know, you've got so many, you know, in the Resistance, you've got all of these characters usually running around, so many extras, and you don't get to know the individual reasons about why, you know, what is someone's history and why do they fight, and that to me was important for this because, you know, we're at the end and we know that there's a big one ahead, there's a big fight ahead, and that's where the main focus was, and I just wanted to figure out for myself why Jannah was there, and that was important for me to figure out with JJ and really investigate that, even if that's not something that necessarily is like communicated directly to the audience. Totally. You know.
Having watched it last night, are you satisfied with how things ended up?
There was that when we did that thing. Oh gosh, we did a
we were right next to each other in the screening, so we're constantly being like,
I was like, I'm like I like feel like I'm either annoying when I go to the cinema or like highly entertaining when I go to the cinema. Because I'm like,
I'm like that too.
I'm just like so that person. Annoying. So there was a lot of squealing happening and like grabbing, and then just like looking at each other and being like, hey, we did it.
Yeah.
You know, and I left it feeling so blown away, especially at the visuals of it. It moves almost to me like a comic book if you read it really quickly. Like, you know, it's JJ's mind and the creators of this, like not only JJ but everyone, like that collaboration has been so special. I think that's what, you know.
Yeah.
I really walked away from it thinking.
Now, I've been asking the returning actors to pick their favorite own scenes from the Star Wars movies. So I want you to think about Episode 8 and pick a scene that you're particularly proud of.
My favorite scene is probably the first scene that I had.
I love that scene.
Yeah, which went from being really, really sad about my sister's death and then meeting Finn and being so like fangirly and then immediately zapping him with the taser.
Knocking him out.
That was probably my favorite
That was
scene.
such a cool journey.
It was the writing. I mean, it's Rian Johnson.
That's when I was like, oh my God, that girl is so good. Genuinely. Little tears running down your face.
Real tears, dude.
Yeah, you gotta squeeze them out.
I know, I'm like, oh! I'm like, are you mine? Is this the close or the wide? Okay.
One last quick question here. Years from now, what life lesson will Star Wars fans have learned from your characters in this movie?
That it's never too late to do good things in the world.
I like that. Yeah. Mine would be to always lead from love despite having experienced pain.
Want to talk a little bit about your collaboration with JJ Abrams and getting back into the swing of things with the Star Wars movies. From an acting standpoint, what was the creative problem you were most interested in tackling?
Well, it's always a challenge, you know, and it's a challenge, I guess, but it's a challenge that I always look forward to and I find very easy to adapt to. So working with JJ Abrams was one of the most exciting experiences I've ever had working with, and I've worked with a lot of very fine people, filmmakers.
What was he able to bring out in your role in this movie that we haven't seen before?
I think a kind of a depth that was not never saw with, we never had really an opportunity to see with Lando in the prior films.
And then what did you discover about the character this time that you were surprised about?
I can't really go into depth about it. I don't want to spoil it for you. So I'll leave it at that.
I wanted to ask you here for IMDb fans, what is your favorite Lando moment of all time?
Oh, when the first time I meet Princess Leia, hello, what have we here? The moments like that, you know, you too belong amongst the clouds. Moments like that, they're always appealing to me. I don't know, 'cause being romantic is always, you know, being a kind of a roguish romantic individual.
And there was probably something about Keri also that probably makes that memory particularly sweet.
Well, she was a cutie pie. Yeah.
Anything else about that scene that strikes you as unique?
Well, I mean, for me, you know, the whole idea of the cape and the whole idea of the name Calrissian, which is an Armenian, like IAN, gave me an opportunity to take the character into places that weren't obvious. I wanted to make the character take those two. I was working from the outside in, taking those two ideas and building a character into a kind of a bigger-than-life kind of hero figure. So not always relying on being in a, you know, just because you're of a certain ethnicity, you should be, you know, people think that you should be, express yourself in a certain kind of a way. I don't do that kind of stuff. I try to, you know, I see myself as a kind of a universal being, you know, very much a part of the cosmos. And the cosmos has all kinds of things going on, so that's me.